Every American should care about having free and fair elections. So important. We know that the presidential election in 2020 was fraught with many claims of election fraud, but this was not the only election that had ever been questioned. Well, today we're talking about how moms just like you can be a part of securing all future elections. This is an important podcast for all who care about preserving our republic. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Curlitis, your host, and thank you once again for joining us here on the podcast. Super duper glad that you are with us. We have an important discussion today, but right here at the top of the show, I do want to invite you to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. We continue to be censored, so we need you to share this with your mama friends in your circle, all of these great upcoming podcasts. And you know what? I should remind you too, we have a great collection of podcasts as well, ranging seriously on every topic you can imagine. So do share, like, and subscribe. Even give us a rating if you would like. Alrighty. Also, I want to invite our moms here to join the Moms for America movement, our mission, our family, our support group, I should say. We are moms uniting all across the country to fight for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. We are a powerful movement of mamas. So I would love to invite you to check us out at momsforamerica.us. Again, that is momsforamerica.us. Join the movement, take advantage of all our resources, materials. We are here to help you moms on your journey through motherhood. Also, if you have a topic or a question about our podcast or some feedback, would you please email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would personally love to hear from you. So thank you there. Alrighty, on to today's program. Well, we have Steve Stern in the house here on the Moms for America podcast. Steve Stern is an entrepreneur who has spent his life in the clothing business. He's known as the flag shirt guy, and you'll know that why that term is when you meet Steve here in a minute. His website is flagshirt.com, where you can find all sorts of great patriotic shirts and more. It's really incredible. Steve's a great guy. And for the past 20 years, Steve has been deeply involved in the Republican Party in his home state of Florida. Currently, he's involved in the issue of election integrity, which is a crucial area of concern these days. So we are delighted to have him join us today. Well, welcome, Steve, to the Moms for America podcast. We're glad to have like the ultimate patriotic man on the show here today.
Well, Debbie, thanks for having me. You know, we've done a lot of interviews, and I'm glad to be here because I saw you guys out at the Clay Clark event out in, and I went to your booth and I was listening to some of the women come up and said hello to a lot of them. And, you know, we do precinct strategy and how I got involved. And, you know, I have a great family.
Tell me about your family first, real quick, would you?
Give you a little background. So I'm going to give you a story that I don't really tell a lot of people, but I'll tell you how I started. When I was 12 years old, I wanted to go see the Brooklyn Dodgers play. I was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan. I used to listen to them on the radio all the time because back then, you know, I'm 82. We didn't have a lot of TV. So I wanted to go to the game, and I had about a quarter in my pocket at that time. So I went to my dad. I borrowed $20, and I bought greeting cards, and I thought I'd be a great salesman and go sell the greeting cards to make money to go buy tickets for the game. So my dad said I could go if I could, you know, earn the money to do that. So I went out to I was born in Brooklyn, and I lived in a nice building, and I went next door and I banged on the door and I tried to sell some greeting cards, and I went through the whole building and I sold no greeting cards. So I went home to my dad, and I started crying. I said, hey, you know, I couldn't sell one box of greeting cards. So he said to me, just do it. Well, so I walked out and I banged on the door next door, and I told the lady next door that, hey, my dad won't let me back into my apartment unless I sold some greeting cards. So she said, oh, I can't believe that. So I stayed there for about 20 minutes and I kept banging on the door. And finally she let me in, and I sat down. I said, Steve, let me give you some milk and cookies. So I sat down there and I drank some milk cookies. And I listened to her story for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He said, Steve, you sound like you're going to be a great salesman. So I said, well, look, I need to sell these greeting cards because I want to go see the Brooklyn Dodgers play. And she bought 5 boxes of greeting cards. So I said, wow, that's fantastic. So I went back into the building and I started banging on the doors and I sold no greeting cards again. So about 2 hours later, I went home and I told my dad, hey, I sold 5 boxes of greeting cards. I said, well, I got good news for you that you got 22 phone calls here to go sell greeting cards because the lady next door told all her friends about it and they all bought greeting cards. So the story of the thing is never give up. So I never give up. And through my life, I have done a lot of things. And one of the things was work with my family. And I got involved in tennis and I became the secretary of the Florida Tennis Association. So I would go to work every day at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd get home at 3:30, 4 o'clock and play tennis with my kids and work with them. They all ended up getting scholarships. I worked with many kids as a volunteer. And we had our family very much together. So my life of maybe 15, 20 years would be get up early, get on the tennis courts at 3:30, and on the weekends be at tennis courts. And I would be selling J.C. Penney because we had got involved with them, and we sold them $14 million a year for 44 years of our shirts, which I developed. And again, a lucky story because God came down and tapped me on the head when I was in Dallas, and I was at a men's show, and I was looking at this beautiful booth out there, and was some shirts up there. And I looked at the shirts, and a gentleman, I was about 18 at that time, a gentleman came out and he said, son, what are you looking at? And I said, well, I'm looking at those great shirts you got on the wall. He said, well, you're a pretty smart guy. I said, why? He said, well, I own half of Laguna Beach. And he said, I got that because of those shirts up there. And he said, I want to retire. I'm 80 years old, and I want to enjoy the rest of my life. So I want to get out of here. And you look like a nice young man. Why don't you go to J.C. Penney, buy the shirts, change the labels, and maybe you'll sell them. Well, that's exactly what happened. And 2 guys at a show came from Pompano, and they came up to me and they said, hey, these are just the shirts we're looking for. That was the start of a great sales thing because what happened?
It began.
These were a thing called banded bottom shirts. So your grandfather maybe would bought them. And for all these years, we've been the #1 in the world on a banded bottom shirt. And we still do that. I sold them for 44 years. So as I was playing tennis, I would go to the stores while the kids were playing these tournaments and see how the shirts are doing. And I would talk to all the customers. And, I would call the penny stores. I was very lucky on that to do that. So I got involved in all that. And for years, I would do that and had a lot of time. And then I saw about 20 years ago, I got involved in the Republican Party. And I went to the Broward Republican Executive Committee. I called them up. Took them 3 months before they answered the phone. And they finally returned the call. I said, I'd like to join. It took them 3 months to send me an application. And I said, wow, this is 6 months that here I want to join and do something. It didn't make sense to me. So I finally got in after about 8 months. And I sat there for 2 meetings. And now the person came up to me and said hello or trained me. So I didn't even know what I had to do. So
this is at your local Republican meeting.
Right. So this was the Broward Executive Committee, which we'll talk about and tell you all this about to all your great women that are listening. And so I went to the chairman. I said, I'd like to take over as the chair of the getting people involved. And she said, oh, great. We don't have anybody like that. And I said, also, I'd like to take over the telephones because I called for a long time. Nobody answered.
Nobody answered.
You don't have to volunteer. So when I picked up the phone, there was 186 messages. I called every person back because that's my forte. I call people. So, and I'm going to tell you all these programs and how we do it. So when I spoke to these people, I said, well, hey, would you like to join? He said, well, that's what we're calling for. So we got 28 new members. So over the years, I raised Broward Executive Committee from 140 people to 500. And then about 3.5 years ago, I was watching TV and I was just watching Steve Bannon, and a guy named Dan Schultz got on there and he started talking about precinct strategy, which I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
So I called Dan up and I said, hey, I'd like to get involved. And I said, we have a great thing going on in Broward. And he asked me what I did. He said, Lay, you got a great success story. Let me call Steve Bannon and see if we can get you on. Well, about 2 weeks later, I got on and I get up about 3 o'clock in the morning because, I've never been on TV, never did an interview. And I said, well, what am I going to say? So I started writing notes to myself and I started, trying to invent what I was going to say because I didn't know how long I was going to be on. So they told me I'd be on at 11 o'clock. Well, here I'm waiting and I'm getting on. I got all these notes and I got everything in my head. And well, about 11:45, they finally put me on, and I got on, and I did a terrific job, they said, because Bannon texted me and said, hey, we'd like to have you on again because we got to sell this program. We've been doing this for 14 years, and we've never got that accomplished. So one of the things—
Can I ask you real quick, Carol, 1 second, because I want to make sure our moms are exactly catching up with you here, from the entrepreneur businessman to the precinct committeeman strategy here in his local area, making a difference. Here's what I wanted to ask. Now, when you took over here and got involved in the Republican Party, were they interested in reform and doing things differently? Because those are some of the challenges that people have around the country, is the Republican Party may be doing things a certain way, and we need to do things a little bit differently. We need to get people engaged, involved. We need to answer our phones.
Well, 100% of what you're saying is true. And what I got on and what I started doing, and we'll explain how this happened and how all this stuff involved. So the second time I got on, I'm an old school guy. I started bringing this up, and I put up Dan Schultz's book, which I like everybody to get. You could go to www.precinctstrategy.com.
Yes,
so
okay.
And I also went to the site, and I talked to Dan about the site. This tells everybody how to get involved. And I'm going to let you know what you got to do if you become a committee woman or a committee man. And you see I have my little button on, which I go.
I am a committee person. I have been for 10 years myself. I mean, this is really how we take back the community, the party, and make an influence. So I'm just delighted to have you kind of share this more specifically for our moms, because this is something that everyone can do.
So we have 400,000 slots, as you know, as committee man. Every precinct in the United States is available. We have only 210,000 people involved. And when we started back there about 3.5 years ago, we had 180. But let's face it, we have 60 million Republican voters. We have independent voters that could change and get that. So how did we do this in Florida? Because I'm in Florida, and we started talking to people all over Florida. I called all the chairmen and got a lot of people involved. And doing these things. And like you know, as a committee woman, you know that a lot of these counties all over the United States don't even let people in. So we're fighting this all over. So when I get on Bannon and a lot of the programs, I've been on Bannon, Fredericks, Cowboy Logic, Gruber, many, many programs. I mean, this started and everybody wants me on because we get people involved. And what I do is I put my name and number up, and I want to do that because if anybody wants to get involved and learn what should be done, you can go to sstern1054@gmail.com. You can call me at 954-318-6982. I will answer all these questions because when you're a committee woman, as you know, you attend meetings, and that's the first thing. So you want to get to know everybody. And the main thing that we do is get people elected. And so getting people elected are not the easiest thing in the world because, you got to knock on doors. You got to do many, many things, phone calls, sign up people. And that's what we do as a committee woman and committee man. That's how we get involved. But we need to get more people involved. So what I did was, and why I'm even, I'd like to get this to all your people.
Yes,
because
our mamas.
we have 500,000 moms. And who is the most important person in this world today is your mom.
That's
because
right.
She is the woman that changed this country. And, I've done this for 3.5 years, and I learned something very important. I went up to President Trump, and we discussed. It took me a year to get involved with him. But when I got up there, he endorsed precinct strategy. And, I won't go through how we did that, but it took me 3 months to do that. And 2 days before the election, I was up to see President Trump, and he actually endorsed one of my candidates, which I thought was phenomenal because who am I but just a guy on the street. And I said to him, would you talk about this at your rallies? Because when I get on and I talk to all your people, maybe I'll get 100 people involved. And when I get on Bannon, every time I get on Bannon, I've been on there 50 times, I get 100 people call. So I answer every call and I talk to them. And if they don't get back to me, sometimes I got to call them 5 times, but we get them. And, so this is how we get people involved. We go out and we talk to the people and we ask them to get involved. And why is the moms important? So I realized, President Trump did not talk about this at his rallies. So I know we have to go a different direction. Now, I've spoke to the Secret Service and everything else. We wanted to get booths and stuff out front. So it didn't happen. So we have to go a different direction. So I'm going through every organization. We're getting on every organization, talk to them. We just talked to all the heads. We got Clay Clark. I talked to Clay Clark here a few weeks ago. at an event down in Miami. And we had a booth up there, and we got a lot of people involved, and that's what's happening. So we have to have tables out there. And I was in Vegas, and I saw your booth out there at Clay Clark's event. And a gentleman from Nevada, who was a chairman of the committee man, he was out there with a nice booth. And I stood there for about an hour. And as people were coming up, I asked them, do you want to get involved? You know, naturally, I didn't take away from him, but they said yes. And I said, well, how come you didn't get involved before? So, well, we've seen this booth and you're giving me these pamphlets, and yeah, I'd like to get involved. So now I've realized that at every event we have to have tables and we have to get, people involved. So we're working
approach people. Yeah, very good.
With Turning Point. I was at a Turning Point in December,
absolutely.
And Tyler Boyer and Charlie Kirk are involved with that. And we're very happy to have one gentleman in an area up in Connecticut. His name is Dominic Lombardi, 20 years old. And he's going to run for chair of one of the counties out there. So I thought that was great. So let's say a combination of your women who, know what's happening to this country. And while I was up with President Trump, he talked to me about the election coming up here in 2024, what I thought. And he knew I ran a precinct strategy Zoom meeting with 400 or 500 people. He says, why don't you run for election integrity, which we changed to election security because there's no the integrity is not there in the election, as a lot of people know. So who did we have on? We have the top people. About 2 weeks after I saw him in November, I started this little Zoom meeting, which has gone to 800 people. And we've had Joe.
Now, is this something our moms can participate in right now? That's what I want to get at. Right.
So we have this every 2 to 3 weeks. In some cases, we have it every other week. And who do we have on this? So you'll know, the moms probably know a lot of these people. Jovan Pulitzer, one of the top people in election integrity. Cleta Mitchell, Dr. Frank, Mike Lindell was on a couple of weeks ago. Heather Honey, who talks about all the kids in school and what we got to do. Robert Epstein, Dr. Robert Epstein, who I went to visit in San Diego, who talks about how Google swayed the election with 2 to 5 million people. Michelle Swinick, who I work with, she's my counterpart. She has a show on Brighteon TV. We have a big thing going on called SaveMyFreedom.us. That's SaveMyFreedom.us.
And what is that now?
Now that's a Michelle Swinick and I worked on this so people can go there and find out what's happening, because we have a lot of things happening in this country that nobody knows about. Give you one example. New Jersey, we have a girl who started a club, and she started with 10 people a year and a half ago. She now has 135,000 people involved, called Common Sense Club. And, why is that important? Something
we're missing, right?
Exactly. You wouldn't know about that. And Liz Nader called me about a year ago, and I went up there with 46 speakers. And the first thing I did was, which is different than a lot of people do, I called as many of the county committee people in New Jersey that were going to attend this thing before I went to the meeting. So when I came there, everybody came up to me and actually said, hey, how do we get more people involved? And so I started giving them tips. So we have a guy in Rhode Island who took me 3 years to get somebody, but he was running for Congress. He lost the election. He immediately the next day called up all his counterparts, got involved, turned all the Rhode Island people who were rhinos and everything to MAGA. And, that's what we're trying to do. You asked me a nice question about all these county committees and why we have problems. Well, we have what we call establishment people, as you know. We have rhinos, and we got the MAGA, America First. The MAGA First are taken over in many places because the established people didn't want to let us in. The rhinos didn't want to do what we wanted to do. So
they're the activists. So they're passionate activists for sure.
So how do we get your women involved? That's a good question. They're so involved in liberty and in God and everything else. And that's what
their home and their kids and raising children. So there's a lot vying for the mom's time, attention, and span. But I can tell you this, if I can be a precinct committee woman, anyone else can. And because it's simple, it's targeted, and you do make a very nice impact in your community and in the Republican Party. So tell us, Steve, how would the moms go about that?
So the first thing is, I'd like to tell you about an important person that became a committee man, General Flynn. Now, I say if General Flynn can do that, who is the busiest guy next to me, and we talk each week, because what he's going to be doing now is, and I can't give you what he's doing, but it's going to be a sensational thing for this country. So the moms can get involved by first, I would say, go to precinctstrategy.com. Look on the website. Get to understand your state, because every state is different. Yeah. Like in Florida, it's easy. We don't have to get voted by a electorate. We get voted by the club. So we fill out an application. We're doing 2 meetings. We get vetted, and we become a committee man and committee woman. So what
here you have to run. In my state, you have to run.
Exactly. So what happened? We went in Florida from down 110,000 Republicans up to 500,000 Republicans. How did that happen?
Wonderful.
Well, all the committees and everybody else started signing up people. We became poll watchers and poll workers. Very important. We need the women to step up. We have 60,000 poll watchers and poll workers in this country. We need 120,000 because there's about 140,000 areas where people vote. So we need a lot of people.
Double that.
And that's what the moms can do. And now a lot of the moms, look, you moms work round the clock, bringing up the kids, and they got involved. And I saw this right before the pandemic. This is when the world changed, because our moms started watching what the kids were learning on their computers. And they started seeing, what is this baloney that they're watching, that they're learning? I didn't know anything about that. So now they started to get involved. And, a lot of your people went to the school board meetings and got school board people elected. So that's the first thing that's important. And that's terrific. And if we could get a mom on every corner to be a precinct committee woman, that will change this country. Because right now, as we know, we have 9 million people that have come into this across our border. And what's happened is we have a lot of terrorists that are coming through. And a lot of people are doing their work. And, I'm 82, as you know, and I've got 8 grandchildren and, 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, because I started learning that they went to Northwestern University where they, indoctrinate the kids. Harvard, Yale, many of these schools have indoctrinated this stuff. So we got to get the moms to get to work. Now, one of my goals is, if you have 500,000 women, I want to get you 1 million, because the moms are going to be changing this country. They're the ones that are stepping up. And I could see that in the school boards, because we got a lot of people elected. And that is a really big thing that's happening. Now, moms
are so concerned about this country, Stephen. I know you know that, because if we do not have America, if we do not have a constitution that provides us with all these liberties, we don't have a place for our children to grow. I mean, this is very, very concerning, and it is a battle right now. And all the moms have to be engaged at some level. And that's why I love talking about this, because this is another opportunity for our moms to get involved, clearly.
One of the nice things is I'm getting involved with people like Mike Davis, Colonel John Mills, and many, many people. And I'd like to, one of the best things that happened to me, and I like to share this with all the moms so they could see what I do and how this has been important for the country, because I'm going to give you a lot of information. So last year, for my 81st birthday, I got a wonderful letter, and I'd like to read it. And it was from the President of the United States. And this is a tremendous honor, because not many people get this. And this, Liz Harrington gave one of my shows that I was on Bannon to the president to watch. He saw it, and he said, "We join your family and friends in wishing you a happy 81st birthday. Our nation is strong because of hardworking patriots like you, who believe in and defend the great American ideals of faith, family, community, and country first. Your commitment to excellence and dedication to exemplifying the American dream through ingenuity, hard work, and principled leadership in the foundation of your tremendous success demonstrates the proud spirit of family-owned and operated business. As you celebrate this special day, we hope your heart is filled with joy, knowing you have experienced our country's greatest blessings, freedoms, and affection of your loved ones. Melania and I send you the very best wishes, your continued health, happiness, and success, et cetera, et cetera." Now, this tells you that what I do. So I'm not just a guy out there, asking for your help for nothing. I have gone to everybody. I've gone from the president to the vice president to everybody under the sun. Mike Lindell has endorsed it. Give you a little example of what happened. And I'm not afraid to call anybody, as you know. That's how I got on your show.
I have a feeling that's true.
So I called Mike Lindell cold, and he said, "Do I know you?" I said, "Well, I saw you 2 years ago." And I said, "By the way, I love your towels." Well, as a businessman, one of the things you always do is tell another businessman, "Hey, you got a great product." He said, "Oh, thank you very much." He said, "What are you calling about?" I said, "Well, I'm calling you about precinct strategy. Do you know what that is?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, and I started telling you about it. He said, hang on, Steve, let me get one of my girls on the phone. So he got two of his girls on the phone. We talked for an hour. He said, Steve, I'm so impressed. I want you and Dan Schultz on the program tomorrow. As he was on the program talking to me, he endorsed precinct strategy, and he's gone out there talking about it continuously. And
Nice.
you know of anybody who is the greatest person for God and country, Mike Lindell is that.
We love Mike,
good friends. And I'm actually hoping to see him very soon. I've tried to meet him at Mar-a-Lago a number of times when I was up there. And, you know, one of the things I do when I get on the program, I want to tell you about some of our great people that we have in this country who are leaders, could be moms of America, and they're great moms. I'm involved with them. And what happened was we have a girl, Tina Celine. She called me from California about 6 months ago when she saw me on one of the programs. And she said, Steve, we need help in California. I said, what can I do? She said, well, let me get you some of the people. So I've spent 8 weeks talking to people in California, and we got 400 people together, 10,000 people I represent, and we're going to try to turn California red.
Yeah, we're doing a lot in California ourselves. Yeah, so we're just thrilled about the moms there.
Top people, and I'm going to tell her she should join Moms for America. This woman has done so much, is unbelievable. And what she's done is helped us get people, because we have a something that's very important. We have a new PAC that any of your women can get if they know any of the great MAGA candidates. It's called DrainTheSwampUSA.com. And it's for We the People, MAGA. It's driving people to campaigns, getting ads done, doing a lot of stuff for them because, you know, and I'm on the board because a lot of the candidates have trouble raising money. You know that.
Sure.
President Trump raised a lot of money, a lot of congressmen, but we've got to get elected mayors. We've got to get elected commissioners. People forget about all those people, and I don't. So I got the people to start this, and we've already got 1,000 candidates that we have lined up.
Well, by the way, we do endorsements at Moms for America Action. So any of the candidates that are listening or a part of your group, we would love to endorse them as well. So Mom MFA Action is doing endorsements. So we're there to support them.
I read before I got on the program for a week. I studied your site because, you know, when you get on, you want to know that Moms for America are raising patriots, promoting liberty, and healing for America. So I want to bring you a guy. You know, a lady called me 6 months ago. His name is Robert West from Texas. He wrote a book, The 5-Star Plan. I recommend everybody to get that. It's you know, turning people into committee men and women. And why I love him is because he got 1,000 people involved. He drove 8 hours to speak to 16 people. So I know you have lots of moms out there that are doing the same thing because I read about them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of the moms. We have a girl in West Virginia, Teresa Howe. She's running for office. She's a MAGA candidate. She called me up. She says, Steve, I understand you're looking for MAGA people. I could not find people in West Virginia that were MAGA. She introduced me to hundreds. And why was that? Because they have a Democrat as a senator. And, you know, if we don't take back the Senate and keep the House and get the presidency, this country's going down the tubes.
It is. It's an all-out emergency.
A lot of people don't realize what's really happening. And I would like to get some of the moms, and I'm sure of your 500,000 people, some of them have lost children due to fentanyl. And some of these
we do a lot with this. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't see people stepping up and saying, hey, this country is letting China send all this fentanyl in there. So on top of that, I work with Tom Holman on the border and Tom Trento. So I'm all over the place. And a lot of people.
How do you do this at 82? That's all I want to know.
So some of the show guys who I've been on, one of them has said that Steve does more in a week than the country does in a year.
I know.
So how do you do this? You wake up at 4:30 in the morning and you start texting. At 5 o'clock, you start texting people. Now, we have a Zoom meeting for election integrity, like I told you.
Now, would you just mention that? Let's mention that one last time. So, moms, if you're interested and you want to be a precinct committee woman, you would go to precinctstrategy.com, right, Steve?
Either that, or you can give me a call at 954-318-6902. I will answer all your questions. Now, of course, if I get 10,000 of you women calling me, it'll take me a little while to call them back. But you can also email me. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, answer all my emails. I don't go to sleep before I answer all the emails. I have 4
Let's
emails.
call Steve at 5 a.m. and get the early bird here, because I think you're busy all morning. So they can call you, they can sign up, they can join the Zoom meeting. If they go to that website, they will get all the information. They can call you. And moms, we can impact our community, our neighborhood, our school districts really by networking and being a committee person and sharing about the party, sharing their concerns, sharing about good candidates. That's what we do. And then we've got that vote, which is very, very important throughout the year as an elected official or an appointed official.
Well, I think you guys can control the country because we have to take our country back.
That's
and
right.
Moms are, I would like every mom to call another mom and get them involved.
That's
and
right.
If that mom calls another mom, it goes all the way up the ladder. All of a sudden, we have millions of people getting involved. So I want to hear from all the moms. I don't care if you call me. It may take me a little while to get back because we're going to get a lot of calls. Discuss it because, I can tell you how many people call me and said, how can I get involved? Because they realize what's happening to this country. Gas prices, I was in California. It was like 6 something a gallon. It'd probably go to 8 or 10. I mean, it's ridiculous that they're cutting off production of gasoline. We got to go to buy gas from Iran and buy gas from Venezuela. It's crazy. Now, I've just been told, that one of our guys, Colonel Mills, who just wrote a couple of new books, he was down in Panama, and he said that China is going over there and putting up, they're training people in there. Well, why are they training people in Panama? You know why? Why are they in Cuba? Let's wake up, America. Let's wake up, America. I mean, we are too quiet now. I mean, if everybody read you don't normally read the New York Times, but the New York Times 2 weeks ago just said our debt is crazy, 32 trillion. Now, our children and your moms, I'm not going to be around, but I was around when interest rates.
That's what we're giving our next generation.
18%. Now they're going up. And it's going to be difficult for people to earn a living. And we're hearing people that can't pay their bills. So we have an election coming. And we have to get the moms out there.
Yes, we do.
Talking about this, getting involved on our election integrity thing so they know what's going on. Because we put out a lot of information that they don't know about. And my girl, Michelle Swinick in Arizona, she was a person who was a judge during the election, saw all the things that were going on in Arizona. She has spent 12 hours a day trying to get rid of machines and trying to help, and she needs to get people involved. And that's how we go to our SaveMyFreedom.us. It helps her to get this involved because you would think that people are stepping up at a tremendous rate, but they're not.
It's shocking that people still are just not, some are just not paying attention.
Well, Debbie, you hear from a lot of people, so you know what's going on. And, this is the time to step up. We have X amount of months left to the election. And, the Democrats are going to try every way to win the House, Senate, and the presidency, no matter what happens, because they want to control it. They want to control your mind. And, Dr. Epstein has showed us how Google has swayed the election with 2 to 5 million votes for Biden. And how does that happen? So all your people know, because I didn't know about this till I heard him on Cleta Mitchell's Zoom, and I immediately got him on a Zoom, and I immediately flew out to San Diego because we talk about how our elections, aren't right. But look at this. He has 11,000 people working for him to stop Google. And how do they do this? Well, when people went up to vote for, an independent who didn't really know who they were going to vote for, whether they were going to vote for Biden or for Trump, they were swayed, and all the literature that came up was all for the Democrats, and very little literature was coming out for the Republicans. So he's shown that, and he's put the people out there to try to stop this for the next election. So if you think that we lost the election for whatever you think, you didn't know this, because most people didn't know that Google swayed the election. But
we know, we just know that the liberal media and Facebook and Twitter and, we keep getting censored ourselves, Steve. I mean, they keep shutting us down in every corner. So you cannot get the message out, and it is not a fair playing ground, and they have dominated, but we're getting around it by doing things just like this and by having people speak and be involved and champion, a good election, a fair election, an election that, that we can represent our moms. Their vote's very important.
I do something that's very important. I got on maybe 50 different podcasts here in the last 60 days. And what I did was bring all our people into those podcasts. So I don't just do it for myself. I have people all over the country. Immediately when I get on a podcast, I send them 10 people. Now, we're working with the veterans. The veterans have to step up. We're working with the retired police. We're working with the retired firemen. We're moving into every area of this country because I believe in 3 years that we haven't done enough to get the people involved. And if the people don't see it now, they're never going to see it. It's going to be all over. Because if you don't think we could be Venezuela, you're 100% wrong. Because the government is controlling it. They have the FBI, they got the CIA, they got the Justice Department. So you see when people, just like you said, you're getting censored. You don't know if your message is getting out. We don't know if people are actually seeing it. We don't know when we send an email what's happening because many times they don't go anywhere. Because
you know what it is though, Steve? We try harder. And I know that you're traveling all across the country. So is Kim and I, and we do see just a really groundswelling of moms and parents and grandparents concerned about this country and wanting to help. Again, so that's precinctstrategy.com. I just want to thank you so much for joining us and your energy and your passion and your commitment to America. We so appreciate you being on the Moms for America podcast, Dave.
Well, I always end up with action, action, action. And that's the most important thing. But before we go, maybe you have a couple more questions because sometimes these questions help people to really get involved. My main mission in life is to get people involved so we take back our country. So again, let me just put my name and number up because a lot of people don't think about it until the end of the thing. And
and we'll put it up as well. Go ahead. I'm
too quick sometimes, because I'm fast because I'm a Brooklyn guy. So it's 954-318-6902. That's 954-318-6902. sstern1054@gmail.com. And I just ask everybody to get involved. And if your moms can't get it, get your children involved. We have younger people, 22, that are getting involved. So thank you so much for having me on, and hopefully.
Thank you. And we're going to have our mamas give you a call and stop by that website and get involved, moms. This is another great opportunity for us to save America for our children. Thanks again, Steve.
My pleasure.
Well, again, if you want to get involved and be a precinct person in your community, like Steve so passionately described here today and the importance of it, again, you go to precinctstrategy.com. And then you can also join Steve's Zoom meetings, learn all about the difference that you can make in your community. And again, you can also email him at stern1054@gmail.com. Ask to join, ask to get involved, and he will really help train you up and get you involved and make a difference in your area. And lastly, if you want to go ahead and get some great patriotic clothing, go ahead and pick up some great flag shirts and gear over at theflagshirt.com. Boy, we love that stuff. Can't get enough of the American flag, can you? All right. Thanks again, Steve. Also, certainly, we do want to mention to our moms that you can go ahead and sign up and get involved with Moms for America. If you haven't, we are here to help you. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please go to momsforamerica.us, get our newsletter so we can share all the important information and resources with you. We have so many resources for you, moms. It's a challenging time right now in our culture, and we need to help each other and support each other. And that's what we're doing here. Also, when you do go to our website, check out our cottage meetings. The moms love our cottage meetings. These are 12 lessons that will inspire you and educate you about America's amazing heritage, so you can share those principles of liberty in your home, most importantly, and in your community. This program, along with many of our other webinars, seminars, podcasts, booklets, we have a whole page now on certain topics, from gender confusion to critical race to parental rights. We have certain booklets now on our website that are all available for you, moms. So again, a ton of information to help you be the best that you can in your home, raising this next generation of children. We say this every week, right? It's public policy to Congress. It's the kitchen table to the school board room. We are here at Moms for America to help you. All righty, moms, we say this every week, and we always want to be reminding you that liberty begins at home and that you are truly truly the heartbeat of America. What you're doing there every day with your children is really the most important blessing job that anyone can ever do. I hate to call it a job because it's really a calling and a blessing. So we want to inspire you and just let you know how much we appreciate what you are doing. It's because of moms like you that we will help save America. Alrighty, please join us next week for another inspiring and informative discussion for moms just like you. We will see you back here next week. And as always, mamas, let's keep changing our world one home at a time. Talk to you soon.